Thank you so much for tuning in to Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. I am music producer Achickwitbeatz.
And I'm entrepreneur Breezy Gipson.
And we're glad that you've tuned in today. We've got another show lined up for you with a little bit of music industry news sprinkled in. We've got more highlights from some of the incredible women that we've had on the show. We're kicking it off with Kristen Eve, Deidre D. Essence Smith, and Monique Nicole. And these were some great interviews, and we know that if you missed them, you got a chance to enjoy them again. Some of the best of the best, and please make sure that you check these women out. And of course, we want to send a super huge shout out to our home stations, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Sparks Radio out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, well, women in women in music, that's a strong and deep topic. That's heavyweight stuff, so that's nothing to take lightly. So that's some really good stuff right there.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right, without any further ado, let's go. We're back with music industry news. A Danish man receives a prison sentence for streaming fraud in a precedent deemed historic by artist associations. So in Denmark's East Jutland region, a 53-year-old man received an 18-month prison sentence for data fraud and copyright infringement. He used bots to inflate the stream count on 689 tracks that were uploaded to platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, etc. And he accumulated over 5.5 million listens in a week, mainly from 20 subscription accounts. So the altered tracks breached copyright on 37 songs, earning the defendant about $290,000 from 2013 through 2019. So the court confiscated this amount and it imposed a $29,000 fine. The defendant actually plans to appeal. Why, I do not know. But additionally, reports from the Danish Rights Alliance revealed that he held 69 accounts across various music streaming services, including 20 on Spotify alone. But I mean, come on, are you serious? 5.5 million listens in a week from 20 accounts? He had to partially want to get caught doing something like that, wouldn't you think? That's just bizarre, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but see, that old thought, that old adage is, a lot of times when folks do these kinds of things, once they feel, not actually, but once they feel they're getting away with something, do it 2 or 3 times, 5, 10 times, whatever, they think they're impervious to being caught. They think that they're in a zone. They think that they've got the answer to everything on how to beat the system, but guess what? They don't. And this thing, it happens so much, but hey, come on. It's just like you're saying, that many, nah. 5.5 million listeners in a week.
Yeah, that's just crazy, but you're right. People, think they can get by with it, and they just keep going and get bolder with it. Very true.
They do.
All right, so lesson in the game: don't try to game the system. They can find out, and it'll catch up to you. So this wasn't just some type of fine. Which, don't get me wrong, that's bad too. But I mean, to get slapped with prison time on top of that.
Hey, when it comes to prison, oh no.
Right.
You're not playing that. No.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Don't do it.
Nope.
All right, Spotify is trying out video courses from music production to Excel mastery. So they're expanding into e-learning with a new offering. They're starting it in the UK, but they're partnering with third parties like the BBC and Skillshare. So the e-learning content includes freemium video courses that cover various topics like, we said music production, Excel, and creating online learning lessons. So this is a benefit for those who want to create courses that they can sell to other people as well. So every course that's there will have at least 2 free lessons, with the total course prices ranging anywhere from 20 to 80 pounds, which is approximately 25 to 101 US dollars. So these prices apply both to basic and premium users for now. I mean, got to kind of guess that they might change that in the future. But the initiative actually aims to kind of bridge the gap between platforms like YouTube, Masterclass, and LinkedIn Learning, targeting musicians and others interested in becoming education creators. So, I think that this is pretty ambitious. There are so many ways to learn the things that they're talking about offering outside of Spotify. But obviously, they're trying to capture part of that market. If I had to guess, and this is just totally my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if later on we were telling you that they abandoned this idea. Who knows? Maybe it'll take off. Maybe people will enjoy it. Personally, I find it kind of interesting that they're doing this as another way to try to gain revenue from musicians when really musicians have been asking Spotify to pay more. This just seems kind of weird to me, or odd. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, one thing that sticks out with me is LinkedIn Learning. Okay, so for a couple of years, I've been involved with LinkedIn Learning. Didn't pay anything. Okay, LinkedIn provides all kinds of education in many realms, and but you want to create something where you want to collect. Now I can't. There's no way for me to know exactly which one of the courses or which direction they're going with LinkedIn or not. But a lot of LinkedIn stuff, and I can't speak for YouTube or Masterclass, but there's a lot of LinkedIn education that costs absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So why would someone want to pay Spotify to learn the stuff when you have all these other free outlets available? I don't know. Obviously they've got a plan, and of course they've got some stuff that they haven't disclosed as to why they're doing it. But yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that they're targeting musicians with this, and then it's curious. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Wow.
All right, and then you've probably heard a little bit of some of these stories, but the global music market boomed in 2023, and it was led by streaming revenue growth and geographical expansion, which, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you already know this without the official report being released. But the 2024 IFPI report showed that the global recorded music revenues increased by 10.2% last year, reaching $28.6 billion. So this growth was driven by a rise in subscription streaming revenues, which accounted for almost half of the market. Streaming, including paid subscriptions and advertising supported services, contributed over 2/3 of the total market revenue. So the number of paid music streaming service subscriptions surpassed 500 million for the first time, with over 667 million paid subscriptions account globally. Physical sales and performance rights revenues also saw some growth geographically. The sub-Saharan Africa saw the fastest growth in recorded music revenues, followed by Latin America, the MENA region, Asia, and Australia. Despite challenges such as streaming fraud and digital piracy, the industry continues to kind of evolve and innovate, and is supported by investments in artists and marketing. So basically what this means is that the partnership between artists and record labels is what they're declaring crucial for the growth and sustainability of music markets worldwide. What does that mean? The record labels need talent. So in order for them to continue making money, they're going to have to start investing even more in artists. So as more people are kind of breaking away and doing the independent thing, it's making the labels nervous because I mean, hey, let's be honest, they actually need the talent in order to be able to continue to make all this money that they've been making. So there'll be a lot of opportunities there. For independent artists, you know, the labels are kind of hungry. Of course, this is when we start to see more and more of these stories of where the big labels are buying up some of these independent labels, trying to bring them into the fold so they can still capture that revenue as well. So again, another prediction, I bet we'll be seeing a lot more of these stories on the show to come.
Well, in summing up your article, as you that news article, the partnership between the artists and the record labels remains crucial for the growth and sustainability of markets worldwide. I mean, that's some heavy news right there. Okay, so when you go back a few months, a couple of years or whatever, they tried to keep it lopsided to the other direction. But now it's coming back to this direction. Oh, what do you mean? Hey, we got, just like you said, they got to have artists. So, wow.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick pause for the cause, and then we'll be back with those highlights from our interviews with Kristen Eve, Deirdre D'Eston Smith, and Monique Nicole. Stay tuned.
Hey, this is Breezy Gipson. Would you like to learn about our music profit program and fast track your earning all the money from your music sales without some big company digging their hands into your money before you even can get it? Visit musicflow.now.site, fill out the form, and I'll get you some information about our program. Doesn't matter what country you're in. Again, that's musicflow.now.site. That way, you can learn about how you can get all the money from your music before some big company digs their hands into it before you even get it.
Hey, this is Achickwitbeatz. I am a multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit my website, achickwitbeatz.com, for resources for artists and instrumentals available in various genres for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's achickwitbeatz.com, ACHICKWITBEATZ. Let's make something happen. Thank you so much for joining us today for Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. We are excited, thrilled, and delighted to let you know that we have with us in our virtual building today, Kristen Eve. How are you doing? And thank you so much for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk with both of you.
Yeah. So, if you can, just give everybody a little bit of your background, like what kind of shaped you and got you into music and developed your love for it.
So I grew up in the Philippines, and, the culture there absolutely loves music and expression through music. And that's, where I fell in love with music. That's where I started to play guitar and write music at 13 years old. And, ever since then, it's just been the one thing in my life that's never left me. It's helped me navigate, so many ups and downs in my life. And that's truly just how I express myself.
Man, what a beautiful opening when you say, Breezy.
Yeah, see, we're already in the same pocket because at age 13, I was learning how to play guitar and I was developing.
Really?
Oh yes. So see, we're in the same pocket. We're definitely in the same.
I love that. Yeah, there's something I've heard so many people say that 13 is when they started learning guitar. There's something about it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, I know you're itching to ask a question. I'll go ahead and yield the floor to you.
Well, I mean, hey, that point right there is worth 40,000 points. Okay, so we're already winning with that. And so when you're young and you get involved with instrumentation, it takes you into a different world of your own. A world of absorbing, a world of learning. And so after doing that for from 13 to about age 15, you were really kind of set aside because you had a talent that you've been working on that some of the other folks that age, they didn't have. So did that make them gravitate towards you a bit more because of that talent that you had?
Yes and no. I feel like when something like that enters your life, for a lot of people like myself, it usually comes from a place of like, I mean, for me, I had a lot of childhood trauma that happened to me. And now looking back, now that I'm older, looking back, I can see that it's almost like my soul led me to falling in love with the guitar and writing music and singing and expressing myself through music so that I could build this safe little world where basically it was just me for a while. So I would say that it wasn't really more people gravitated towards me. It was more like for a while I was in my own little bubble. And that just helped me cope and get through some really tough times in my life. And now, I would say now in my adult years, yes, it's definitely starting to, it has started to bring people in and have people gravitate towards me and like-minded people, of course. But, in the beginning, it just felt like my own little, I hesitate to use the word isolated, but I guess that is kind of what it was. But it just kept me, safe for a while in that, and where I could learn how to navigate the hard emotions and events in my life through music.
Well, that was your safe zone. That was your safe zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of the Maya Angelou quote where she's talking about how music was where she could curl her back up to the loneliness. And I feel like a lot of artists, do kind of have something to pull from, like where they kind of need to escape to music. And
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, for you to embrace it like that, were there any specific people that maybe you turned on before you started picking up your guitar? Like maybe if you were feeling a certain way, anytime I hear such and such sing, I feel relieved or comfort. Any artists like that stick out?
Yes. Since I was a little girl, Celine Dion has been my woman. Like she is the top for me. Like she's my biggest, greatest idol. And she was, I would say, out of any artist, I mean, there's so many, but she was the one who I'm watching her concert DVDs back to back, like 3-4 times in a day, sitting inches from the screen, just losing myself in her world and not just listening. I look back now and I see I was in a way studying her, because I wouldn't just listen to her sing. I would always watch how she talks to people in the crowd. Her concert DVDs, I would watch how she interacts with people. I would watch how she makes them feel seen and heard, and how she talks to the crowd and includes people, and how she treats people in interviews and stuff like that. My heart, I just remember being a little girl, just like absolutely adoring that and looking up to her, and just, it made me feel seen and heard. And so she was somebody that she just absolutely rocked my world. I love her to this day. But yeah, she definitely helped shape me as an artist and who I am now, and how I express myself, but also how I interact with others.
That's really
and I gotta throw this out there. See, if you actually can speak that into existence, where I know she just recently made an announcement about a week ago about her health and everything, but you can actually speak it into existence where somewhere down the road, you actually are going to be in the front row at one of her performances.
Oh, wow.
But you got to speak it into existence.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you can do that, and it will come to fruition.
Then we gotta have you back on.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Then we gotta have you back on so you can tell us all about it. And we'll say, hey, remember the first time you were on the show? Yeah, that's pretty interesting about what you said about how she talks to people and kind of draws you in. I know we've been connected on Instagram for some time now, but when I'm scrolling and I see your videos, you have that same quality, because there's a lot of content out there, but I'll stop and it feels like you're talking directly to me, not to some massive audience. So
Wow.
yeah, you actually possess that quality. Maybe that's why you were so drawn to it.
Wow. I mean, it feels nice to hear that, because, sometimes you don't really, I mean, obviously I'm not experiencing myself as a third person. I'm just me. So, I forget that, I can have that effect on someone. So it's definitely like, it feels nice to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is just, kind of an example of that. Weren't you drawn in instantly as soon as she started with her story, Breezy?
Absolutely. I mean, it didn't take, it was like half a second I was there. That's what I'm saying. We were in the same pocket because of what I was hearing and the way I was hearing it. Okay, so yeah. Shouts out to you. Shouts out to you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So anybody that's listening right now, what would you tell them that you want them to gain from listening to you? So, let's say we've got somebody out there that's like, oh, I can't wait to go check her out. I want to hear, what she sounds like. What do you want them to walk away from listening to you for that first time?
I would say just know that it hasn't been overnight for me to get to where I am today. And the one thing I would say that tops everything that I want to give to people through my music, my voice, my expression is not feeling alone in whatever they're going through. I have been through so many events in my life where I was alone, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and literally, on the floor alone and thinking, man, I wish so bad that there was somebody on the floor going through this with me right now, and we could just talk and whatever. And every time I would go through those moments, I would always say, I vow to myself that when I am finally in a place in my life where I can sing and release my songs and talk to other people and share my music, I vow to myself to do everything I possibly can for them to get to have that feeling of that someone's, on the floor, sitting with them in their pain, not trying to rip them out of it, but just actually being there in that moment with them. And so that is my greatest hope, that when people hear me sing, or they hear my lyrics, or they hear me share anything, that's that feeling they get, that space of just togetherness. And I'm not trying to make you be different in this moment. I'm not trying to make it better. I'm not trying to come in and rescue you. I'm just actually here sitting in your pain, or whatever it is you're going through, and that's enough. Just being with you in it.
Whoa. I have never heard a response to that question so deeply impactful and thoughtful, and wow. That is incredible. I'm speechless. I don't even have anything after that. What about you, Breezy?
Well,
Man.
In some of my outside participations, there's a lot going on in society these days, in civilization these days, and now I'm hearing there's certain roles of being spokesperson, spokeswoman, spokesman, because there's a lot of young people who, at certain ages, they're like sponges. Okay, they absorb everything that comes along, and so words of wisdom, words of experience, words of gratefulness, words of achievement, words of goodness. There's a lot of young folks, and older ones too, that will absorb your words in a really, really positive way. So that statement you just made, take it to the heart, to take it to another level, level up with that, along with your music and other things, and then outside of the music, there's some avenues that statement that you just made can be used to help a lot of folks. Okay, so always keep that in your realm, while you're dealing with the music, because there's a lot of folks that you can help pull them up out of the muck and mire, and you just never know. So keep that in your sweet spot.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that it's a really, really important to have a mission behind what you do, because that's what helps break through the noise. You can always tell when there's an artist that does it just for the attention, or whatever the case may be. But with your desire to actually give value, not just showing off that you've got talent, but for somebody to actually get something for it, that's so incredible. It's a great quality to have in these days, that we're seeing more and more people who don't really care about it, but putting their heart and soul into it. So yeah, kudos to you for sticking to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, I agree. And I think having that too helps you have your strong why. Why am I doing this? Why do I keep going? In the times that you feel like you're burning out, it can help you get back to the drawing board and be like, well, this is my why. This is why I'm going to keep going. This is why this is important to me. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, next question. I know Celine Dion would be at the top of this list, but if you could collaborate with any artist, past, present, whatever the case may be, who else would it be next to her, I should say?
My goodness. That is such a hard question. Oh, man, I don't even know how to answer that. There's so many incredible artists. I know for sure, because I'm a songwriter. I've been a songwriter since I was 13. I absolutely have the greatest respect for songwriters, and I feel like I know how to spot really great songwriters as well. And so Tracy Chapman is one of my all-time favorite songwriters. I mean, the lyrics. When I listen to, oh my goodness, it just absolutely moves me. And so even if it wasn't like performing or singing, just a songwriting collaboration, it would just rock my world.
Thank you so much for joining us for Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. We're excited to announce that we have, she's always about her business anytime I see her on social media, and always on her Detroit everything. Poet, lyricist, D-Essence. How are you doing?
I am well, and I won't complain. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're glad to have you on the show. And if you could, really quick, just kind of break down a little bit about, who is D-Essence, a little bit of the history behind your name and what you do, and when you decided that you needed, lyricism to be a part of your life.
Okay. Well, I am a diehard native Detroiter. I grew up on the east side of Detroit. I currently reside on the west side of Detroit. And I had come into the world of music as a child. I was raised on a lot of jazz, a lot of R&B, some classic rock. And eventually, hip-hop caught my ear one summer, the summer of kindergarten, actually. A cousin of mine, he had come over and he had brought the J.J. Fad Supersonic 45 record. And he put it on my Sesame Street record player. And when I heard the first notes and the chorus and everything, I said, what is this? And I got to be a part of it. Not only do I have to be, but I will be a part of it. And some years passed, and I had been a vocalist. Poetry began to emerge, and then hip hop ensued. I remember 7th grade writing my first rap with that same cousin. So from that, I began to hit the open mic scene here in Detroit, and I would go as Deidre Smith. I would be the first one in. I mean, before they were set up, I would sign the open mic list, and excuse me, I would sign the open mic list, And I would always be the last one to be called. I would be in before they set up, and I would perform while they were busting tables. And my name would be skipped over, and I would hear from the stage, do we have a DeAndre Smith? And I would just raise my hand in the empty room that it cleared out. I said, it's Deidre Smith. And they said, well, come on up. And I would perform with just as much fervor if it were a full room. And I would watch the bus boys stop doing what they're doing and watch the kitchen staff come out and watch me perform and watch the host that would skip my name see why they may have made a mistake. So from that, I went from being the first one in and last one to be called to not having to sign a list at all. And then a friend of mine who I began rapping with, I've gone through a lot of groups and collectives that have helped me along the way. And one of them being Raw Dog Collection and Raw Dog Records, rather. I'm sorry. And a brother by the name of Poetic Menace and Robert Gillespie spearheaded that record company. And Poetic Menace would tell me, you know, D, you so cold. You gotta get a stage name. I said, well, no, Deidre is all right with me. That's fine, because if you recall, I stated that I was a vocalist and a poet before an MC. So I didn't find any, you know, purpose in me adopting a stage name. I thought that Deidre was befitting because I can kind of like have an all-encompassing presence and name with just my legal name. And so he said, no, we gotta get you something like I gotta call you The Essence. And so Poetic Menace had dubbed me The Essence, and he had spelled it the apostrophe in the classical spelling of essence. And I said, well, no. I said, I like it, but if we can still incorporate my name in it. And I said, how about we do this? How about we put my initials, D period, S period, and put sense behind it, so I can say Deidre Smith has sense, but it'll still be your the essence, meaning the essence of hip hop. So there was a fair compromise, and with that, I still said I'm Deidre D Essence Smith, like a Tribe Called Quest, and I wanted everything that I am to be within my name and within my artistry, and that's how I came to be known as an artist in Detroit and abroad, and also how I got my stage name.
Wow. That is phenomenal, isn't it, Breezy?
Yeah, well, you know, that really strikes a note with me, because I have some questions in the back of my mind, not to you, but other questions in the back of my mind concerning various trends that are taking place in the music industry these days, taking attention away from the individual musicians and putting all the attention on what's going on in business. Okay. And see, so I applaud you for making sure that you maintained, there was, the person was trying to take that away from you, and you insisted they were trying to take your name away, and you insisted on having your name remaining back in that. Okay. So, to come to a compromise was great, but still you retained that control, whether people will look at it as large or small, you still in there. So, I'm just cheering you on for that.
Thank you. To be fair, I don't believe my brother was insisting that I adopt something that I wasn't. I think that he wanted me to adopt a name for something he felt I embodied, and I do believe that his intent on me having a stage name had more to do with kind of putting a name to what he felt emanated from me. And I, being the person I am, you're absolutely right that I had to insist that I still be present, even in the stage name. I don't necessarily believe in alter egos or anything like that. I don't believe in fragmenting oneself. When it comes to artistry, I think that everything that you are is going to come through your art in general. So why not be you? And that's not any, diss or shade to anybody who adopts a stage name, because I do have one. But I do believe that everything that you are, even a name that you choose to discard of, a history that you choose to step away from or discard of, or a future that you look forward to, all of that is going to come through you and your art, regardless of who you call yourself.
Yeah, that is true indeed. I know initially, once I became known as Achickwitbeatz, to a lot of people, like, oh, well, there's me and then there's Achickwitbeatz. It's a difference. But then the more music I started to do and the longer I've been in it, I realized, like, no, I actually am Achickwitbeatz. I was a scapegoat. So that way, if people didn't approve, I could just blame it on Achickwitbeatz. But yeah, you're right. It's kind of interesting how art can help you learn yourself better,
I find that, excuse me, I find that in my art, I can see a lot of my flaws. If you listen to some of the lyrics and listen to some of the songs in general in the projects, you can hear this tug of war. There's intimacy, sensuality, grittiness, street vibe, hood. There's a culmination of all these things that I am. And even if you listen to a particular song, like, you can hear this blend or this tug of war. And a lot of my projects, they come in really, really aggressive and they end very soft, almost spiritual. They come in very aggressive. There's swearing. It's a lot of stuff. And then you can hear me reference love. You can hear me reference a street brawl. You can hear me all these things. And no matter how hard I might try to focus on the lovely parts of myself, and there are very many of them, there's still some ugly things, some things I'm sorting out, some things that are heavily flawed. And I think that's the markings of true artists. They don't mind putting themselves out there. And although we may mind the criticism and ridicule that might come with that, we have to take that just as willingly as we take the praise. So, I embrace it all. I don't want to blame too much on the MC, and I want to assume a lot of responsibility as Deidre for a lot of things that I say and do in the music. And I know that sometimes it can be abrasive, so I had to be ready for that pushback when that comes up, just as well as I receive the praise.
Wow. Man, like, I mean, I've been getting chills like every time you've been speaking. What about you, Breezy?
Yeah, it's a very, very heartwarming understanding. The way you broke that down and touching folks, and I'm sure the listeners are receiving the same spirit that is coming from you while you're describing that pathway that you've taken. And so, so that's a really rare and warm moment. And, you've caused that to go throughout the airwaves from here to there and beyond just by the way you described that.
Thank you, Breezy. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, one thing that I've noticed in the midst of everything that you do, you always find time to encourage and uplift others. It's really easy to hit the level that you have and just kind of, just focus on your own thing. How do you, I guess, what prompts you to do that and to be able to kind of big up everybody in the midst of being so busy yourself?
Oh my goodness. I grew up in a time where I feel like I got the best of the best in Detroit public schools and communities and neighborhoods. And mind you, I'm an 80s baby, and I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. And so we had, once again, those great contradictions. We had crack epidemics, war on drugs, but we had area East schools that had science fairs, and we had a 4-H community center. We had after school enrichment. We had Girl Scouts, all these things that existed in spite of, right?
Mm.
And so in order for us to have had those things while in the midst of this particular era that could have been very toxic, and it was for a lot of people, there were still people, adults, teenagers, that were a little older than me that mentored and actually provided, an escape from what could be. And we had, we were blessed with choices. Not very many kids have choices now. So I can walk past what I didn't want to be on my way to what I wanted to be. You understand?
Ooh.
And so I always wanted to, when I became of age and when I felt like I had something to offer, I wanted to provide that alternative too. I'm all those things that kids that have a little less are. I embody that. That's one reason why I'm so involved. I know what it feels like to go without. Excuse me. I know what it is to not have resources, whether within the home or outside. I know what it's like to not have sufficient school supplies. I know what it's like both in the home and inside the schoolhouse, what it's like to be limited, but to have all this know-how. And I also know what it's like to have adults and children alike be industrious enough to get those things that were missing. Or if they didn't get those things exactly, they improvised in a way that you didn't miss what you never had. And so I give back in the hopes that somebody can look back on me when I leave up out of here and say, yeah, she showed me an alternative. In spite of, she showed me an alternative. And my work is not done yet. I have a long way to go. And I pray that I'm blessed with many more decades to get it accomplished. But when it's all said and done, I want people to say that she gave her all. And when I came into contact with her, I was able to glean something worthwhile. And everybody won't have that same sentiment. But as many people as I can affect that way positively, I hope to do so.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today for Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. I am thrilled, excited. We're delighted that we have the one, the only Monique Nicole in the virtual building with us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. So, if you could just give a little bit of background for everybody out there listening, who is Monique Nicole? Tell us a little bit about, what you've been doing and when you discovered that you needed music to be a part of your life and all that good stuff.
Oh, wow. I've been singing since I could pretty much talk. And, I went into the music world probably about professionally as a singer. 2015 is when I dropped my first single. But previous to that, I was doing artist management and, I owned a few studios and I worked in a supporting role, helping other artists, achieve their dreams. But in 2015, I decided to invest in myself. So that's when I had dropped my first single, Say Yes. And, I got pretty lucky and was blessed that the single did really well here in the States and abroad. And that's where it pretty much began for me as a solo artist.
Now you know that when you help other people achieve what they're trying to achieve, it always comes back and opens doors for you. So I'm just elated to hear what you just said in your opening statement.
Oh, thank you, thank you. You know, I had a passion to help others, and I had a passion to also, you know, stay connected to the music business. And you know, my parents, they didn't really support uh being an artist per se. You know, they felt that music was more of a hobby than a profession.
Mhm.
So you know, I listened pretty much, and you know, I went to school. I wound up, you know, having a career in law enforcement, which I just retired from in April. And you know, while being able to satisfy, you know, what I needed as far as being within the industry in those capacities, but I'm happy that, you know, at some point I did push forward and, you know, be able to, you know, to live my dream a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot, I should say. So,
Yeah.
so it's been going well. You know, for the most part, you know, you got your peaks and valleys, because the business is not easy. It's not, you know, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, but it keeps going up, so we're going in the right direction, which is great.
Yeah, that's what's up. And you know what you were saying about what your parents said about it not, you know, being for a career but maybe a hobby. You're not alone. There are a lot of people who've experienced that. You know, it's always like, oh, well, make sure you have something to fall back on. But it's really cool that you found a way to still be involved in it, even if you weren't practicing your artistry as it was, you know, but to be able to help others, like you had mentioned, that's really cool. So, you know, since you had that experience, how much of that have you been able to use to help you yourself as an artist? Like, how did that kind of shape how you move within the industry now?
Well, it helped me enormously because, you know, you reading contracts, you're doing this, you're doing that a lot. You're doing a lot in the management capacity. So, you know, I was managing myself up until about 2 years ago. So, you know, it allowed me to have the knowledge base to be able to navigate, you know, throughout the industry, not just as an artist, but also as a representative of myself. So, you know, knowledge is power always. So it definitely did help. And, you know, I'm independent. I have my own label. And I've had labels previously with other artists signed to me. So I'm signed to myself now currently. So it helps a lot. It definitely helps. You should know the business that you're within. Because music is a business. And if you don't know the business side, you're going to have a problem.
Well said. Well said. Wouldn't you say, Breezy?
Oh yes, oh yeah. But see now, you have a very calm and calming demeanor. Okay, right, and so which leads you to come across as a very influential person in the industry. Okay, and so you know, which I give you kudos for that. And so you've got advantages that others don't have, which is a good thing. So you know, I'm just happy to sit back and absorb you and what you're saying and the way you're saying it today.
Oh wow, thank you.
Yeah. Good stuff. So now you were raised in Brooklyn, right?
Yes. Born and raised in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Can I yell at the Brooklyn?
Of course. You already know. Brooklyn is always in the house.
Yeah. So yeah, we gotta know about how that's shaped you musically as well.
Yes. Well, Brooklyn, it's a melting pot. And you know, coming from parents that are like my father was from down south, my mother's from the Caribbean, and living in Brooklyn, and it's just multicultural. So you would hear a lot of those influences come out in my music. And I think it was like a huge benefit to me being able to grow up in Brooklyn, you know, through a great era, few great musical eras, you know. Like I have a mixtape where, you know, that was produced by my brother, which had a whole bunch of like guest DJs on it. And it was called Straight from the Crates. And, you know, that came up from being in Brooklyn, going to these block parties, you know, and MCs coming through and rocking the mic. But instead of that, I was singing on different tracks that they were cutting up or whatever. So that was just like such a dope era to live through, you know. It's just, you know, you had that. Then you had, of course, the reggae. You had soca. You had Eastern Parkway. You know, that was popping off every Labor Day. I didn't live too far from there. So I had so much around me that has affected me and my artistry. So I'm thankful that I grew up in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a huge part of me that would never leave. It's like once from Brooklyn, always from Brooklyn. So it's like no matter where I go, you know, that's where I represent. And people know as soon as you open your mouth anyway, because I have an accent. Like I'm here in the South. I'm out in I'm north of Atlanta. And no matter where I go, they're like, "Oh, from New York. You from New York?" It's like, yeah, I'm from New York. Like I can't hide it. It's just not gonna change, you know. So yeah, it's a huge part of who I am for sure.
Beautiful. So wait, so that means y'all been in the same states, Breezy, because he was born in New York and now he's in Georgia and Atlanta. So yeah, y'all got some stuff in common, huh?
Okay.
Well, see, that's my homegirl right there. That's my homegirl right there.
Okay, homie. Well, Breezy, where in New York were you born?
Well, see, okay, here we go. Now, I'm a New Yorker, but now I'm okay. People are quick to say, "Oh no, you ain't from New York." See, I'm a Niagara Falls guy. Okay, so but yeah, but see, growing up, I spent a lot of time traveling to New York and back and forth. But you know, there are, you know, that has its liabilities, because there are folks that will say, "Where are you from?" I say Niagara Falls. Oh, you're not from New York. But then on the other hand, there are a bunch that they recognize that. And as a matter of fact, there was a Niagara Falls, Atlanta reunion every summer.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of tailed off with COVID, you know. So I'm just very hopeful that, you know, you'll get back reorganized again. But enough of me. This spotlight's on you. So you know, let's keep that flow going, because the listeners, I'm sure they're loving what they're hearing from.
Oh
yeah. So okay, now just this is a question that we normally ask, is how would you describe your music for somebody that's new to you, that's listening now, that's never checked you out? How would you describe it? I see that it's raw soul music laced with a touch of satin. That's so beautiful.
That is, when I say, the best description. Still, that does encompass what I do, especially, you know, my earliest catalog up until my little bit of a style flip with this latest single, Red Bottoms and Lingerie. But yeah, I think that's a really good description. And what I would add to that, I think that my music takes you through a timeless, like, ride, you know, through life, you know, through just it's it's a little something for everybody in there. You know, it really is. Like, you know, some people will pull up my Christmas album, be, oh my God, like you're doing jazz and traditional gospel. You know, it's like, okay, that's a lane that some people might not have known about, although, you know, the first single was a smooth jazz R&B, but it's quite a ride, and it's a smooth ride though, you know, for the most part. So yeah, I think I would add that to the description. It's time. The music is timeless.
And that's key right there, because, you know, a lot of people do make stuff to where they just kind of focus on what's hot right now, and it'll be really hot right now, but when it's not timeless, it kind of fizzles out, and you listen back like, man, why do we like this? So, you know, it's really refreshing that you sticking with the timeless stuff, because that's the stuff that you can keep going back to. It doesn't matter, you know, how many months, years, you know, whatever have passed. When it still just kind of hits you, you can still feel it. Like that's the classic stuff, the feel good stuff, the stuff I like to listen to.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I still listen to the same music that I grew up on, and it's just as good then as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, you know, as a music creator, that is just so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important that you put art out there. It's art,
Yeah.
you know, and you don't want art to just get old and not mean anything. It needs to mean something later on. It needs to make somebody feel something. So, you know, that's important no matter what kind of record I'm making.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you kind of switched up styles a little bit with this new single, Red Bottoms and Lingerie. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I know you had a very special feature on there as well. So, yeah.
Yes. My manager, Michael Stemley, brought this record to me. And I said to him, wow. I mean, that's exactly what I said. I'm like, wow, that's different. You know, he's like, yeah, I know, it's hot. And I'm like, yeah, it is a hot record. And I kind of was like questioning myself, like, well, those short cadences and stuff like that. I said, you know, I'm one that'll drag a note out forever. So I'm like, all right. And then I viewed it as a challenge. You know, I got issues. If you challenge me, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. So we did it. I mean, I loved the record. You know, it was very well written. It was just a different sound altogether. And I went for it. And so we did it. I actually recorded it here in Atlanta. And then it was like, okay, well, I think we need a rapper on here. And he was like, I agree. I'm like, well, what do you have in mind? And he's mentioning women. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, but I think it'll be better to have a guy on here, so you have that dynamic of male, female kind of going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, nah, it'd be good to have, you know, you and get like a sexy rapper, and, you know, it's both of y'all in rep. I'm like, yeah, that's cool too, but I'm like, I really think a guy dynamic with a female will work better. Mm-hmm. So we were kicking it back and forth, and my brother, he's also on my team. And he's like, well, what about Little Flip? And I'm like, oh, out of Texas? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, you know, let's see. So so he calls up his management, and here we are. You know, he writes this verse. Well, he don't write, he freestyles off the top of his head. Mm-hmm. I'll get back to how I know that later. So he does this verse, he sends it to me. I'm like, whoa. You know, I'm like, okay, this is hot, great. So that's how it all came together.
All right, that does it for this week's edition of Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. Once again, we thank you for joining us. We thank our home stations, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Sparks Radio out of Atlanta, Georgia. Again, we just encourage you to make sure that you link up with these ladies, follow them on their social media accounts, check out their music, and continue to support the greatness that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and there's a whole ton of greatness too. That's for sure.
All right, so till next time, you know where to find us. Tune in, tell a friend, we'll see you then. Peace.
Peace.